channel. We do have that available, so hopefully maybe we can, I don't know if there's a way to convert them or whatever. But maybe there's a way to do that, or, do something with them so we can preserve them. Wow, we got 24 people in here.
Are we going to have any refreshments after the meeting?
Yeah, at your house.
Yeah, eat pizza.
Yeah, pizza sounds good right now. I'm hungry.
Eat pizza.
Yeah, with a capital E.
Okay. Well, I'd like to turn the meeting over to Tim and ask that everybody please remain muted unless you have a question for Tim, and then unmute yourself to ask the question, and then remute yourself so that we don't have a whole a noise floor that we don't want to listen to. Remember, DX is quiet. Tim, it's over to you. And I'm sorry, I have no audio, no video.
Okay, JR, thanks very much. And good evening to everybody. I'm Tim, K3lr. I'm here at my shack in West Middlesex, Pennsylvania, which is on the southern side of Interstate 80, just as you go into Ohio. I'm about the last tourist stop going into Ohio, and this is where CQ Zone 5 ends, and Ohio is where CQ Zone 4 begins. And I want to thank all of you that are customers of DX Engineering for your business, your support. And if we can ever help you with any of your amateur radio needs, don't hesitate to call on us via the web, via email, via the phone. We are dedicated to this hobby. I poured my heart and soul into DX Engineering here for the last 7 years. And we have experienced incredible growth in that time period. And we try to help as many people have fun with the greatest hobby in the world. Tonight, I'm going to talk about my amateur radio station that I have been working on for the past 33 years. I only have one hobby. This is it. Since I was 12 years old, I have had no other hobbies. It is the first thing I think about in the morning. It's the last thing I think about at night. And in between, it's all about what can I learn, who can I help, and how can we have some fun. So during the last 33 years, I've been fortunate enough to build a station that has 13 towers. It has 11 operating positions. I'm sitting in front of 2 of them. These 2 are dedicated to operation on 80 meters only. And this is the only multi-band amplifier in the shack. All the other amplifiers, such as this one over here, are homebrew single band amplifiers. And so we'll get more into that as we progress with the slides. So we'll do a share screen. And do you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So even though I've been here for 33 years, in 1992, we started multi contesting, which means multiple operators with multiple transmitters going simultaneously. And this was me in my bedroom at the house I grew up in Sharon, Pennsylvania. This is 13 years old. I actually was licensed when I was 12 as a novice, and then quickly progressed by age 14 to extra class. Of course, this is back in the early 70s, so it was all in front of the FCC. And then when I was 16 years old, I passed the first class commercial license with a radar endorsement. So I was all in on this radio deal, and I've always been a collector of QSL cards, and now there's an area of the DX barn that has over 100,000 QSL cards. So I still love, I got a QSL card in the mail today, so he'll get his return tomorrow morning. So K3lr is right in between Erie, Pittsburgh, Akron, and Cleveland. I'm 50-minute ride into the DX engineering office and warehouse. But thankfully, I haven't had to go into the office since mid-March. They said I had to shelter in place. What a place to shelter in. And so I've been into the office 4 times in the last 7 months, but very close to Pittsburgh and can get down to Pittsburgh in a little over an hour. And that is typically my airport of choice, but again, we haven't been flying lately. So here it is, here's Interstate 80 and my property, which we've got 15 acres here now, is on the south side of Interstate 80. And there is a visitor center there on the eastbound side. And frequently hams will stop at the visitor center and then walk over to K3lr and knock on the door. So we always will welcome visitors. And the secret to this QTH working well is the fact that it drops off very fast going to Europe and to Japan. Over 80% of our contacts in DX contests are with Europe stations. And so it drops from about 1,040 AMSL down to 850 very quickly down to that riverbed. And it does the same towards Japan. It's flat towards Australia and New Zealand and towards the Caribbean, but there's not as many QSOs to be had there. Just taking a look overhead at the antenna farm, this is on the north end of the property right up against Interstate 80. There is a 5-element array for 160 meters. In the middle of this photo, there are 2 4 squares on 80 meters. And then the tallest tower is at the bottom of this photo, and that holds antennas for 40, 20, and 10 meters. This is the middle of the property with the 15-meter tower, and then the 10-meter tower, and down in the south end of the property is the 20-meter tower. Let's take a look at that 40-meter tower. This is a pretty incredible dream come true. There are 3 full-size 40-meter Yagis on here. There are 4-element optimized wideband array Yagis. That means that they have a very low SWR across the entire 40-meter band. The longest element, which is on the right-hand side of each one of these large Yagis, is 75 feet long. Each one of these antennas weighs 410 pounds, and they have 25 square feet of wind load, each antenna. So it's 260 over 190 over 120. It is the largest 40-meter antenna array in the world, and boy, does it work, and it works very well. There are also 20-meter Yagis, and at the top of the mast is a 9-element 10-meter Yagi that is used by the second station on 10 meters at 275 feet. This is what that 40-meter tower looks like from my neighbor's house. So they get a good view of things, and neighbor relations are very important. They have been since day one, and I've not had any trouble with the neighbors. I've received building permits for all of these towers. I am in rural Pennsylvania, but I do have neighbors, and but everything has gone along very well. Just again, giving you a little idea the size of the 40-meter tower, and it is quite an antenna system to use. Down at the bottom of this tower are 2 10-meter Yagis at 80 feet over 50 feet. And as I said, some 20-meter Yagis. All of the guy wires here at K3lr are made out of Philly strand. So that's all non-conductive. So there's no interaction with the guy wires. The tower itself, all of the towers here are manufactured by Pyrod, now Belmont. And the difference is they're solid leg towers. So it's not pipe tower like Roan Tower. They're incredibly strong. And for 160 meters, one of the receive antennas we have right in the middle of this photo, it looks like a 4-element 15-meter Yagi. It's actually a Waller flag. There are two rectangles in phase, and it's a rotatable antenna for 160 meters for receive only. And sometimes it's the best antenna. You can see that all of the antennas that are mounted on the side of the tower are on ring rotators so that they can rotate around the tower and get maximum efficiency out of them by being able to aim them anywhere in a 360-degree arc. And this is looking up at the busy 40-meter run tower. Lots of antennas, all computer designed and modeled, and also optimized for their stacking arrangement. This is the 20-meter tower. The top 80-meter dipole that's on top is at 245 feet. And then right down on the top of the tower is a 6-element 20-meter Yagi. That is at 230 feet. And there are 3 more 20-meter Yagis down the tower. So it's a 4-high array on 20 meters. And this is looking down the 20-meter tower at the 2 lower 20-meter Yagis. And in the middle of this tower are 2 40-meter Moxon antennas. They're 2 elements, and they're physically short, but electrically they work as 40-meter elements. The T's are what does the loading, and they work extremely well. We use these for the second station on 40 meters, and it's a stack at 185 over 120 feet. And then taking a look, you can see the construction of these Pyrod towers. It's a 24-inch face, but just massive, and they work so very well, and they're very strong and great for holding up these large antennas. This is the 10-meter run stack. There are 4 8-element Yagis in this run stack. And back in 2018 during field day, we operate field day from here with the local club. Unfortunately, there was a drunk driver that got off the road and ran into one of the guy anchors of the 20-meter tower. And it caused bending of the tower legs and supports, and also kinked elements and booms. So we had to replace the 20-meter tower back in 2018. You can see the new tower is in the middle of the photo. The old tower is up closer, and we're just starting to stack the new tower. You know, it's a big crane when they send another crane to build the big crane. And so this is a 100-ton, 350-foot crane that we use to build the tower and also set the Yagis, and makes the tower look small. And this is the tower at about 100 feet with the ring rotors starting to be installed. This is the top of the tower. You can see the solid steel legs and the incredible bracing. This is the DX Engineering thrust bearing on the top plate. And so incredibly strong tower. Here are 2 of the new 6-element 20-meter Yagis. They don't look that big, just a 50-foot boom and 6 elements, weighing at just under 300 pounds each. And here is the 6-element Yagi going up to its resting location at 230 feet on the tower. And tower crew up there installing the new 6-element 20-meter Yagi. And there are steps on the mast so that we can climb up to work on the 80-meter dipole if needed. And you can see the top red beacon. These towers are registered with the FAA and FCC. And so that's why you see the orange and white paint and lights on these towers. And I was able to communicate via FaceTime with the tower crew at the top of the tower, and we hooked in the Rig Expert AA54, so I could stand on the ground and they could sweep the antenna right up there on the tower to make sure everything was good. Those big 40-meter Yagis, this is the driven element of the 40-meter Yagi. It is 2.5 inches outside diameter, very heavy construction, using Garolite Lexan G10 glass epoxy plates. And so this is the split driven element. It's fed just like a dipole, and you just feed it with a feed line choke and you're off and running. You notice that the first director is very close to the driven element. That causes the feed point impedance to go up to 50 ohms. And that first director also is responsible for keeping the VSWR low. The antenna never exceeds 1.25 to 1 over the entire 40-meter band. So this is what one of those massive 40-meter Yagis looks like on the ground, with the reflector sagging about 30 inches, which is quite good for an antenna of this size. And so in 2019, I decided to bring the crane back, and we would put up new 4-element 40-meter OWAs. So crane came back and we installed these new antennas. The old ones had been up for about 25 years, so it was time. I think we wore out the aluminum. Again, the big 100-ton crane, and you can see the 4-element 40-meter beam going on top. Everything working good. This is one of 4 geochrons here at the K3lr shack. That's an 84-inch 4K Ultra TV. It's the biggest and the best TV in the house, and it's dedicated to a geochron so that we know where the sun is at all times. And I love these geochrons. We're not into VHF here, but I guess we could call the 15-meter bands and 10-meter bands VHF. We feed them with 1 5/8" heliacs. So there's virtually no loss to any of the antenna systems here. The spec is that there can be no more than 1 dB of loss delivering our signals to the antenna systems. And so cellular takedowns, 1 5/8" is pretty plentiful. This is the 160-meter system. Typically, you would be happy with just a full-size quarter wave on 160, and that is what this is. The tower is the antenna. It's 120 feet, and it is the driven element of a 4-direction 3-element parasitic Yagi. And here's how it works. There are 4 T-wires that surround the driven element. And if we take the right-hand T-wire that's yellow and ground it, it becomes a director. There's a full radial system underneath there. And the left-hand T-wire will put a little, a small amount of inductance in series with it. It becomes a reflector. And the 2 blue T-wires we will float, just doing relays at the bottom of the box. And that makes it a reflector. The driven element is always the tower, and a director. That's 3 elements. And you can aim it at 45, 135, 225, and 315 degrees, 5.5 dB of gain, and over 30 dB of front to back on 160 meters. And so this is the bottom of one of those T-wires with the radial system underneath. This is the base of the tower using a broadcast ceramic insulator. This antenna is very far away from the shack. So there's 1,800 feet of 1 5/8" that feeds this on 160 meters. For 80 meters, we have 2 4-squares, and they're all installed with broadcast quality radial systems, 120 radials that are 70 feet long. And you can see the feed line choke is the feed system. Here's the center 4 towers, and more on the straps and grounds. And then last year we replaced what used to be high towers with now the aluminum universal tower. And so that the vertical elements are now 60 feet of tower with a stinger on top. And they're all welded together, so there's no resistance in the sections. And here we're setting the stinger lengths to make sure they're perfectly resonated for the 4-square system. And they are beautiful. Universal tower made up in Michigan. Here they are mounted on the new DX Engineering insulators, and beautiful, beautiful system, very strong. And so here's 4 of the towers, and the 160-meter tower is in the rear, but this is one of the 4 squares. And the 2 4 squares, it's just like stacking Yagis. They're separated by 5/8 wavelength, and they're broadside on Europe, so you get 3 dB more than a single 4 square. And tuning systems for optimizing the 4 squares using the Comtech Systems hybrid, and works very, very well. And of course, we make these boxes at DX Engineering. Also have 4 squares on 40, 20, 15, and 10 meters. We use these as receive antennas, and they are very good because they give us polarization improvement in being able to hear through our transmit system. Here's 4 square for 15 meters. For receiving on 160 and 80 meters, we have an 8-circle vertical array, and that allows us to point this array electronically in 8 different directions. Here is the center controller, and this is manufactured by High-Z, and we use this half of it on 80 and half of it on 160. And to make sure that the feed lines going to all the verticals are dead cold RF-wise, there are chokes in line. And here's my friend W3YQ. Tim and I grew up together on 80 meters. He lived in Pittsburgh, I lived in Sharon. We've known each other for 48 years, and we're still best friends today. More of the wiring. Lots going on here on the short verticals. They're 23 feet long. This is the base. There's a little control box. There's just 2 ground rods here for the ground. Inside the control box is an element buffer, and then more chokes to make sure those feed lines stay cold. These are all the element buffers it takes. We have a 4 square and an 8 circle that we use here. This is the inside of the choke. It's number 31 ferrite and 26 turns of small 75 ohm coax. This is the house here at K3lr. It was built in 1865, and it is so it is a period home. Everything has been added to it, like running water, you know, a very good natural gas, electricity, etc. I know that the original builders of this house could have never imagined a world-class contest station being located here as well. We have our own 50 kVA transformer from the Pennsylvania Power Company. If that fails, we have a 10 or a 50 kW Kohler natural gas generator that comes online 7 seconds after the power goes out. It's an 8-cylinder Chevy engine, again powered by natural gas. And this is the 30-foot by 30-foot room that I'm sitting in, and with 11 different operating positions. There are 2 for every band, 80 through 10, and 1 on 160. And on the left is the 80-meter position, which I'm sitting in front of. And then also on the right-hand side is the 160-meter position. We have 2 places where the cables come in. This is the southeast cable entrance and the northeast cable entrance. Everything is marked. Everything is in a notebook so that we know what's going on. We have 13 8-foot ground rods in the floor right underneath the operating desks. So we have a very good short connection to ground. And then there's CAD welds that actually join everything together. Some of the operators here at K3lr enjoying the CW contest, K1DG and Ward and 0AX, and K1DG and my friend Phil, K3UA on 15 meters, and Dan in 6MJ, a gold medal winner at WRTC 2014, also a K3lr operator. Here's a typical position with the green heron rotor boxes. This is the 10-meter second station, and ICOM IC 7851 that we use all the positions. This is the switch box for 40 meters. You can see the three Yagis that we talked about, 260, 190, 120. And in this case, all three are being fed. So all the switching is done outside on the tower. The controllers are in front of the operators, push button control. And so 1/3 of the power is going into each one. But the operator can choose to feed the top two, the bottom two, or they can feed any individual Yagi should they choose. Here's for 15 meters. It's a 4-high stack, 160 over 120 over 80 over 40, and he has 10 different combinations you can use. So here's 15 meters on CW with the two operators. One is the run operator calling CQ. The other operator is the search and pounce operator looking for stations that are calling CQ. And in this case, 15 meters is feeding the bottom three antennas. So 1/3 of the power is going into 120, 80, and 40 feet. And he has a heads-up display on his Drake W4 watt meter, letting him know that the bottom three antennas are active. I love the Drake W4, but we wore out the connectors. So we finally have refurbed them and put on new Teflon SO239s. And these are the three control boxes for the 3-high stack on 40 meters. And DL1QQ brought a mug from Germany that says size matters. And it's a lot of fun to use that at big 40-meter array. Here's an example of one of the single band amplifiers that we built here, 1500 watts output at all times, and it is a single 8877. And there are 4,000 volt power supplies on the floor for these amplifiers. And it's very easy to build them when you don't have to have a band switch. It's just a triode, so it's very simple. And this is the 20-meter run position. There are 4 green heron controllers for the 4 Yagis, and each band or each operating position has its own radio, its own amplifier, watt meter, computer for logging, and rotor controls. This is the 2 positions on 20 meters. The run is on the right and the search and pounce on the left. 10 meters, it's the worst of times, the best of times. We're starting to see a little bit of life in 10 now, and hopeful that when we start multi operations again, things will be going good on 10. This is the 160-meter position. Lots of switches, lots of receive antennas, lots going on. There's another one of the geochrons. This is an analog geochron that before the digital one came out. I have two of these analog ones. There are 300 gears in there. It's incredible. There's no microprocessors or anything, and it keeps exquisite time. And so still a big fan of the geochrons. I operate 160 meters CW and during our multi events. And then John N2NC does the phone operating. John was one of 2 operators that were here 2 weeks ago for the CQ Worldwide phone contest. The operators were located 15 feet apart from each other. John did 20 meters using k3lr. John has, we confirmed with the preliminary scores, John has the highest 20-meter single band entry in the world. And he also will set a new US record on 20 meters. So John did an incredible job, and he'll be back for CW. So we'll see how things turn out then. Here's the DX Engineering noise canceling controller. Some of the things that are on the 160-meter station. Also, we have YLs that have operated from here. This is Sandy DL1QQ from Germany. She's a police officer in Germany. She's also worked for the German FBI, and she is one of the best contest operators in the world, and very pleased to have her join us. Sandy and I were teammates at WRTC in Germany in 2018. And hopefully when travel opens up again, she'll come back and we'll do more multi contests. We use the Bose QC15 noise canceling headsets because when you have 11 operators in the shack, you got to have some peace and quiet, and these things work very, very well. We use the ICOM IC7851 at each operating position. It is an unbelievably great radio, best in class ergonomics, receiver performance, and they simply don't break. We have had them here for 5 years now, and not once have I had to pull and replace. I bought 2 spares when I bought the fleet. I have yet to use those spares. They sit upstairs with their crystal ovens running, and they have the latest software, but they've never been here to be used. This is my good friend Al N5UM from Oklahoma City. He comes and operates 75 meters when we do the phone contests, and I operate in the other slot on 75. And here's Al at 4:15 in the morning taking a power nap and getting ready for the JA Sunrise opening. Also on the right-hand side is the computers that we're using now here at K3lr. We've replaced all those bulky and heavy desktops with the Intel NUC, NUC, and it is a full-blown Windows machine with solid-state hard drive, sound card, and it runs on 13.8 volts, and they're RFI quiet. So they're very, very good computers. Here's another view of a NUC mounted on the back of the computer monitor. For 80 meters, we share those the pair of 4 squares between the 2 stations using a custom fast switching box known as the 80 meter XL Twin Turbo +2. It allows the operators to share that very good system. This is these are some of our high power filters. These filters actually started out their life in Tuxedo Park, New York, at the historic multi station of K2GL. They used the call sign N2AA, but these became available a few years ago, and I'm very happy to have them here. They beat down the harmonics, which can be a real problem when you're running 1500 watts and very high gain arrays. When operators aren't operating, they are hanging out at the DX barn. And this is where they can get a little bit of rest. And it's about 80 feet away from the shack. That's a DX gas sign from the DX gas company back in the 60s. And at the end of each contest, I light it up. It's beautiful. And inside the DX barn is a very comfortable area, sleeping for 8. There's those 100,000 QSL cards in the back of the sleeping area. And so happy operators, John BE3EJ from Hamilton, Ontario, and Andy N2NT from New Jersey, and John K1AR from New Hampshire, along with Andy. And that's Dave KM3T, checking conditions on 20 meters in the middle of the night. We use the DX Engineering foot switches here. They're very rugged, they don't fall apart, and it's easy to find them on the floor because they're yellow. And this little box makes sure that only one of the transmitters can be on the air at a time on a given station. I said we have 2 stations on 15, 2 on 20, but only one of them can transmit at a time. And so this is the lockout box that makes sure that that happens. The lockout box also triggers an LED for the search and pounce operator. The LED is on, which means that the run station is transmitting. Now the LED is off, and so the second station is free to transmit. There is locked out. And one of the, this is the 20 meter mult antenna switch. It also includes the 45, 135, 225 for the 4 square so that the operator can select the direction. We have a lot of fun here. It is hard work, but we do our best to make sure that everybody has fun and gives us an opportunity to win. And this is Otis, NP4G from Puerto Rico. He joins us and operates 10 meters in March, the ARLDX contest. And these guys like to have a lot of fun. They've had some time on their hands given the conditions on 10 meters. My friend Phil, K3UA, also Justin, G4TSH from London, England, comes over for the November contest. And Justin has had a great time operating from here. This is a pretty good shot showing all of the positions being used. This is during a CQ Worldwide contest. So you get an idea. There are 3 of the geochrons, one on the left, the analog one in the middle, and then of course the big one over on the right. We have had youth operations here. Some of you may recall we had Team Exuberance here for the CQWPX contest in 2019 in March. And this is Violetta and Bryant operating on 20 meters. And here are 2 of the youngsters operating on 40 meters. And at the end of the contest, when everybody would be tired and going home, they were filling out thank you cards. They actually raised over $5,000 to defray the costs of traveling for this trip. So it was an incredible effort. And here is the entire Team Exuberance team that operated at K3lr. They had planned out an operating plan, and they hoped to have if they made 3,800 contacts, they would figure it was a success. And remember, 10 meters is dead. So, they operated in the multi-2 category. They worked over 6,000 contacts. They made all the QSOs. I made sure that they were fed. I did some coaching. I made sure that nothing broke, but none of the contacts were made by adults. It was all these young upcoming superstars, and you're going to hear a lot more from them as time goes on. Tommy, HA8RT, he was the first person in his family that has ever traveled outside of Europe and came over to the USA. BE7DZO from British Columbia. K6JO was from San Diego. KG5HVO is from Alabama. And N1C, Marty, he's from Massachusetts. And KM4ATT from Pennsylvania. So a very diverse group. They had never operated together. Many had never done a multi-operator, but they were sponges. They were very coachable, and it was an experience of a lifetime for them to operate from here. And the plan was to operate from here in May of this year, but we all know what happened to those plans. It didn't, but hopefully soon they will be back. I also host the K2M 13 colony event for one day during the 13 colonies. And here's Michael, W3MLJ, 15 years old, running stations on 20 meters. And we get visitors from all over the world. Here's a guy from Finland. Here's Hal, W8HC, and Riley Hollingsworth, K4ZDH. Riley gave the K3lr station the white glove treatment, said we passed. So looked good. Couldn't find any closet amplifiers, so he was pleased. I'm a big believer in analytics. We keep track of everything here. How many QSOs we've made, how many countries we've made on every band, what the solar flux was, who the operators were, what the outcome of the contest was. And we've operated more than 100 events here now since 1992, and we're doing pretty well. This used to be the CW Skimmer reverse beacon network rack at K3lr. It's been replaced by the NUCs. And so no more big, huge computers. These Intel NUCs do a great job, and they are hooked to 6 SDR receivers. These are the Perseus SDRs. And so there's a dedicated SDR for each one of the bands, 160 through 10. And we do quite well copying CW and sending it to the RBN. Lots of ferrite here at K3lr to keep power lines from making RFI. Analog power supplies. These are custom-made analog supplies. There are no switching power supplies, not even one iPhone power supply here at K3lr. The operators, I confiscate their chargers, which all can make noise. This is a radio quiet zone, just like Green Bank and Arecibo. And when you don't have switching power supplies in the shack, you have much less noise. So everything here is an analog power supply. We have a coffee system that makes coffee 1 cup at a time. We eat well, and you know, you're going to be 2 days on the radio, 48 hours. We have our chef comes in, Sal, WM2H. He's a good operator, but he's an even better cook. And so he's our chef, takes care of smoking and making sure that we're well fed. And he's got the kitchen going on. And we do help him out making breakfast. We make custom breakfasts for all of our operators. They eat while they operate. And so it's a good time. We work very hard, and a Army travels on its stomach. This is the WinTest logging software. We've used WinTest since 2006. It is written by French rocket scientists, and it is very stable, and I like it a lot. Here is the log area showing QSOs. Actually, this was a pretty good opening on 160 meters to Japan. And so you get the idea that it's a very nice, easy to use logging system. Keeps track of our QSOs, our countries, duplicates, points. And here, I can't wait to see these kinds of totals again. This was actually in a phone contest for CQ Worldwide. I don't remember the year, but 10 meters was good. 170 countries, over 3,000 contacts. So can't wait to see us get back to that again. I'm a voracious QSLer. We do keep a QSL database, but if you work K3lr on a new band mode and you're outside of the US, you automatically get a card. And so these are cards going off to the Bureau. I like t-shirts too, so we do a lot of custom t-shirts to celebrate these contesting events. At the end of each contest, we get on the real 3830. That is 3.830 megahertz, and we exchange our numbers with other multi stations, and so we know generally at the end of the contest who's going to win, subject to log checking. And sometimes we earn a plaque, and we've been doing ready contests recently as well. This is what a typical crew looks like. ILTHRS. I love this ham radio stuff. And crew photo from 2017 and 2014. This is a CQ Worldwide CW team. And 2018, like I said, I love great ham radio t-shirts. And the real reason we do this, we're best friends. There's about 30 different operators that operate here on a consistent basis. Over 150 different operators have operated from here. And so it's been a good time. Back before the virus, there generally every other weekend, there's a tour here at K3lr. Clubs will come from long distances to see this station. This is the University of Pittsburgh Pitt Panther Amateur Radio Club. They drove up from Pittsburgh with their faculty advisor. We spent a whole Saturday seeing antennas, getting on the air, talking about life, talking about studying hard, talking about getting a job after college. So I'm most proud of the youth that are involved here, and also opening the station up so that others can see what fun we can have with amateur radio. So let's stop sharing, and I guess we can do some Q&A for as long as you want.
Looks a little bit different from W2PV.
Well, I'm glad somebody brought that up. When I was 20 years old, so I was a sophomore at Penn State University, I got to operate at W2PV, and I'll never forget it. That was a tremendous experience.
I had to go get a napkin and tuck it in because it was just, my shirt was getting wet. I have a question about, you were talking about repairing that tower. You put up a new 20-meter tower and you had the crane there and a crew. And having done, a tad bit of tower work myself, I'm curious how long to assemble all that.
That project kicked off about the middle of July. And so to tear down the old tower, all the old antennas were scrapped, and then put up the new tower, put on the new antennas. It was all complete by October 15th. So July 15th to October 15th.
Wow.
You were here every day.
I'm surprised you're not in my log.
I'm surprised too.
I know, unless I'm looking up something wrong, but because I get on the air as much as I can. We're different contests, and lately I've been running K2AE, which I haven't looked at that log yet to see if you're in there. But I've been doing that remotely, which has been a lot of fun. But boy, I'll tell you, I'd probably gravitate to that, to your station really nicely.
Well, I've got 850,000 QSOs and LOTW, so we have to have worked.
You have to be a DX station to work them.
Predominantly that's what's in there, but we've been doing a fair number of US based contests too. So, who lives closest to 2532 Troy Road?
Probably me.
So that was the home of W2PV.
Yeah, I've heard stories of that from my dad, K2UF, who, I've heard nice things about it.
Yes.
I got another question about, you're talking about two operators on a single band, a run and a hunt and pounce.
Yes.
I mean, I've heard some of these run stations before. They're working, station after station after station. The guy doing pounce, what's he do? Tap him on the shoulder, say, I found one?
No, what it is, it's incredible when these things are working, when you get two guys that can operate as one. And so what happens, John, is the CQ guy, sometimes, especially towards Europe, the rate can be very high on Saturday morning. But in between there is time when the run operator is received information from the DX station. That's when the search and pounce guy puts in a call. So there's 2 watt meters. 1 watt meter is on the run, one's on the search and pounce. And the idea is to have one of those watt meters moving at all times. So there's no dead time.
Yeah, I was saying you're pretty much transmitting 24, 100% transmit.
Yes. Yeah. But the great thing is, John, we're splitting the duty cycle between the 2 amplifiers. So you're not banging one amplifier the whole time. And it's 2 different antenna systems. But the trick is, some groups on field day have a tough time keeping 40 CW out of 40 foam, even with 100 watts.
Yep.
Imagine trying to operate within about 20 kilohertz of each other with 1500 watts and high gain antenna systems. Now that takes some real engineering, and the guy who was really, really super good at engineering a top flight multi station, who I got to learn a little bit from, was Jim Lawson. And it was just such a shame when he died so early in his life. But what a great human being he was. The whole contest world misses him dearly, but he left us some really great books that he wrote. And he is he's still a legend.
Is the big 20-meter tower that he had in his yard. I think they have a big flower garden around the base of that now.
Yeah, that's, you know, when I was there, I operated on 20 meters and 160 meters. And that 20-meter system worked so well with that big Yagi he had on top, and then a couple of KLM antennas at the bottom. And of course, the rotating Bertha was a tremendous antenna system as well.
Jim was my Jim was my boss at GE, and I learned a great deal from him about antennas, most of which I've forgotten. But to your point, Tim, I think you're right. That whole antenna rotated at the base, and so it made multi-band operation a logistical challenge.
Yes, yeah, he might have been a lot better with these ring rotors, where we can move things independently, and the fact that 15 meters controlled the Bertha, but that, you know, if you needed to use the Bertha on 20 or 40, and it wasn't in the right direction, you were kind of out of luck. But what a great story, Bob, for you to have worked for Jim. I can imagine that he had to be one of the best bosses in the world.
Well, in the spirit of 6 degrees of separation, my father was a physicist in antenna design, and the kinds of books that Jim had written and that kind of knowledge, it preceded me. So my father had already been aware of some of Lawson's colleagues and who he learned from. So it was definitely fascinating.
I'm so glad that you guys are sharing some of the stories. I can't tell you how much I look forward to speaking tonight, knowing that I was hoping that, you know, I would hear some more about Jim, because I was still pretty young when he died, and but what an incredible engineer and incredible man.
He had those CX7s. He had shelves full of them just for spares.
I have a story, Joe. 3 years ago, I got an email from a guy in California, and he says, "I have your radio." And I said, "What do you mean you have my radio?" He said, "Well, I have a photo here of you operating a CX7, and I have that radio." I said, "Really?" And here he had the photo that was taken of me at the 20-meter position at Jim's, and he had purchased that CX7. It was the 20-meter run radio. I said, "Would you like to sell that?" He said, "Oh, I'd love for you to have it." So it's now down in the DX barn.
You have the radio?
Yes, I have the radio. I have
all I got out of that station was a headphone splitter.
I actually, when Fred last did a lot of the selling K2TR, Fred went over and got the receive filters that Jim had handmade, and I bought those. And so I operated at 3 different multis when I was growing up. I operated at W3AU, W2PV, and then at K2GL and 2AA. I have something from each one of those stations, plus W7RM. So, you know, they were so impactful on me, and they did a lot of the trailblazing. And so I think about them often, especially Jim. And Jim was one of those guys I can remember when I was up there in March. It was the ARL DX contest. And this was back before amplifiers were allowed on 160 meters. And Jim played by the rules. There was no amplifier there on 160. And that was not the case for other multi stations. So he was a play by the rules guy. W3LPL and K3lr are play by the rules guys. And, but Jim taught the right way, the only way.
Fred last bought one of those towers. I forget what tower he bought, and he was putting it up in his house, and he said he would get up in the morning and strap a section on his back, climb up the tower and put it on, then go to work. I mean, he was huge. He was a big guy.
He was a big guy, and what a great guy Fred was. No, here we go. Very nice. W1WY and VE3BMV with Jim. Yeah, that's great. What a humble guy.
I have another one too. Hold on. If I can.
Geez, dude, that looks like Uncle Art on the right.
I did some research on Jim. I believe it was his daughter who I contacted to see if I could fill in some of his life story. This is about 4 or 5 years ago. I cannot recall whether this was a personal activity or I was doing it in association with my colleagues in SARA, but I uncovered a bunch of interesting things about Jim. There's not a lot published. So other than obviously his books on antenna design, which are classics. I don't seem to have anything else.
Well, thanks
Which
for
one is
sharing
he in
that.
this picture?
I'm sorry.
Which one is he in this picture? I never met him.
Oh, you're not, are you not seeing the, okay, wait,
Yeah.
hold on a second.
Yeah, we were seeing it.
Well, were you seeing the QSL card?
No.
Okay, that didn't change. So let me just try that again. I was talking to one thing while you were seeing another.
Yeah, there we go.
It's a little small, but.
Bob, is it possible? I looked today on Ham Gallery, and there is a lot of great tributes to great amateur radio operators on Ham Gallery. Are you familiar with Ham Gallery?
Just by name, but nothing more.
So go to Ham Gallery when you have a minute. It's hamgallery.com. And if you search for W2PV, you will see that QSL card. In fact, that exact QSL card is there. There's also a WA2SFP card and an AC2PV card, but there's no story. And it would be great if you or other members of this club could contribute some story about Jim so that he doesn't get just forgotten.
You're absolutely correct. I think that applies to many people in many ventures, but certainly, you know, the century of amateur radio justifies your advice on that. That would be a great thing to do. I mean, I knew him from my years at GE Research, but interestingly, would never operated in his shack. And even though I live maybe, I don't know, I'm probably 2 or 3 miles. I live in Niskayuna, and but on the north end, not on the south end. So.
I must get the prize because I'm less than a mile from him.
There is some resources. There's say about 50 at least years worth of SARA archives in the Schenectady County Historical Society archives, and there's newsletters, there's different articles, but I looked through a number of the years worth of you know, newsletters, and Jim's name popped up frequently in terms of giving talks. His you know, abstract was part of the SARA News and so forth. But I've got to tell a quick story. The only time I really met Jim, I worked at R&D for my whole career too, but I'm a chemical engineer in a sea of electrical engineers. But one night there was a potluck dinner at this church in the Stockade, and I just happened to be, I was a new, maybe it was for new employees, but anyway, I just happened to be there, and Jim was sitting across the table, and we just chatted. And at that time, this was late 70s, and at that time, home computing was very, very primitive. You could buy the MITS, Altair, and so forth, but pretty much an experimenter's very niche-y market. And I do remember Jim, one of the only things I remember about the conversation was Jim was pretty emphatic saying that there will never be a time where people have computers in their homes. And I just said, oh, okay, well, if you say so. I mean, here he was, the manager of the computer science and engineering at GE Global Research. I said, oh, but sure enough, things have a way of, turning out different from some of the experts' predictions.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, Jim, the people that I worked for in IT at Global Research thought that the internet was just a passing fad, and they would not fund any work that I was doing in it for years. And so sometimes, people have different views of things. We see how that worked out for GE, but that's another story.
Sure. Yep. Anyway, we're all human, and but it's one of those funny little coincidences of that just happen, and they just sort of stick with you. But great guy, very warm person, and very easy to talk to.
And his wife Molly was just amazing too.
I can
I think
remember.
Bill Gates was famous for saying no one's ever going to need anything more than 640 kilobytes.
That's my watch.
That's about it.
I can remember you would be operating up at the W2PV, and you got hungry. You went up in the kitchen, got a bowl of chili, and Jim and his wife would be sitting down watching television. And then once an hour, he would come down right on the hour, and he would come down and take the score of every station that was on the air.
Jim's, I don't know whether the ARL still sells it, but Jim's book on Yagi antenna design is a classic. I think it was published in 80s or something like that, but it's still, I'm sure it's still available places, but everything in it still applies.
Oh, it does. Yeah. And he was way ahead of his time with that stuff. I mean, he understood taper when nobody else did, and what it did to element lengths. And so, yeah, he wrote a series of articles in Ham Radio magazine. He wrote the book. I have 2 copies of the book, because I had 2 homes for a while, and I wanted to make sure that I had one in Oklahoma City and one up here. And it was just that I still refer to that book. And every time I go through there, I learn something else from Jim. And like I said, Bob and Jim, it would be a tragedy if the members of this club that knew Jim, had experiences with Jim, when all of us are gone from this earth, those stories will be gone. So that's why having some record at Ham Gallery, so that so Jim's memory will continue to live on, and when folks go back in the pages of QST and Ham Radio magazine, they understand just what a great guy he was.
Tell the truth, Tim. Don't you miss the old dupe sheets?
No. I actually have a sweepstakes log that John Doerr did up at W2PV back in the late 70s, and along with the dupe sheet that John had. And so yeah, no, I lived through the dupe sheets, and I'm really glad that we don't have to deal with that. Yesterday was another one of those magical days for me here at K3lr. Tonight, officially tonight is the 100th anniversary of the first commercial radio transmission from KDKA in Pittsburgh. The station turns 100 years old tonight. The first broadcast was to broadcast the election results from November 2nd in 1920. And so before they had the call sign KDKA, they were using the amateur radio call sign because broadcasting was okay back then. Anything goes. And they were using the call sign 8XK. So yesterday, a few members from Pittsburgh clubs came up here to K3lr, and we were Whiskey 8 X-ray Kilo for 6 hours, making 800 contacts to celebrate.
All on CW though, right?
No, we were on phone too.
Oh, I didn't hear you guys on phone.
Hey.
I was looking for you.
Hey, Tim, this
Yes.
this is Bob. I know I don't have a picture up. I'm trying to, some people are already anticipating what I'm going to say, and I'm not trying to be in any way disrespectful or rude, but I'm going to pop your bubble. But KDKA was not the first broadcast station. Actually, a station in Schenectady, New York at Union College, which ultimately came WRUC, was on the air 1 month before the event that you just described. And for 100 years, KDKA and WRUC have been going at that claim. I'll just leave it there, but it took us years, but we did uncover all the documentation and so forth. So interestingly, a college radio station actually beat KDKA by about a month.
Yeah, I think the difference is, Bob, that was an educational station versus a commercial for-profit station.
There was no such thing as an educational station back then, but that's why when you get into the nuances of it, the argument is there, and everybody, I think on both sides of that claim, is comfortable with living with it. WRUC's advertising mantra, if you will, has always been and continues to be the first radio station in the nation. Some other time, if you're interested in that story, I can share some things with you. As you might imagine, we had a huge centennial celebration scheduled for last month.
Yeah.
And we had to cancel everything. But what we did is as so many people have done, a virtual meeting in which we gathered radio station people from my era. I graduated from Union College over 50 years ago, and even people farther back than that, all the way through the current students who are trying to keep what is now an FM station alive. When I was there, it was carrier injected AM. So we injected our signal into the power infrastructure. But the stories came out in a similar sense as the stories we've just had about Jim. And I just see everybody virtually pondering, boy, we need to capture these stories before they're lost.
Yes.
But we're going to try to do something in October of 2021 for our centennial, and we've got a lot of great plans. I have just tons and tons of historical material about the radio station, and and its start was not educational at all. So anyway, sorry about that.
What was its call sign though?
I knew somebody was going to ask me. I think it's the same concept that Tim talked about. It was probably a number followed by 2 letters. And it was based on the licensing for amateur radio at that time. And there was, by the way, an amateur radio station at Union for the same length of time, W2UC. But I'll have to get to you, Jim, JR, on that. I don't remember.
Hey, Tim.
Yes.
Larry's Raven, KB2WZT. I can remember as I as well grew up in Niskayuna. And always in awe as my father drove up and down, places to go up Route 7 to see that station, and never realized the significance of it. And I think in relationship to the other gentleman here, even though I've been in ham radio 20 years or thereabouts, I feel like I'm in it's still in an infancy stage with it. Some of what I've heard today is just absolutely phenomenal. I sat here mouth agape just looking at just your station alone. And then to remember the PV station was, it's just incredible. I didn't, other than one trip where to the league and having not been able to go in because they were closed during the weekend. I've never seen stations of this size. It's just absolutely phenomenal. It's I would say it's invigorating for me to really get my butt in gear. And the one thing I did want to ask is how does one make a schedule to come and operate at your station? What's the process? What do we do to reach out to you? Is it better to come as a club, or can we, like with the league, just go individually? I mean, is there a process?
So certainly clubs have visited here and come on Saturday or Sunday, and that's no problem at all. And we, typically a tour takes a couple of hours. And for the most part, there's no real operating that goes on. The contests that we do, the 6 or 7 contests that we do every year, typically already have operators set for them. And these operators have been here before. And once you are here and in the system, you get first rights of refusal. And they have deep contesting resumes. They're very talented, and they've already demonstrated a high contest IQ, and most all have worked in a multi-op environment. There are some operators that are just not cut out for this. We talked about this, having 2 operators on the band and having this bang bang thing going on. That's hard work, and it's on the fun meter at the time. It's not as much fun as it's just because it is hard work, and you have to get along and that kind of thing. So it's not a cup of tea for everybody. Not, the stations are not all 20 over 9 that we're working. There's a lot of them that are less than S0. So it does, but certainly, Larry, if you want to come down, or a group of you want to come down once we get by this virus, you're very welcome to do it. And my executive assistant does all the scheduling for the tours here, and so we coordinate that, and then we all go out to dinner or to lunch afterwards and sit around and talk. But it's an open book here, Larry.
Yeah, 'cause I wasn't actually looking to come down and do the contesting, whereas you can go to the league and just operate, not contesting. My contesting skills are average. I don't type well. I'm, very slow in recording the stuff. They're not refined. They're nothing like some of the people that you have there. I was just looking, to come down and just stare in amazement at what can be created, and maybe operate one of your stations. Slowly over the years, we build and we build and we build, and it's just like I got a Clipperton, a Dentron Clipperton sitting behind me, which I got off a ham locally, who he's well over 90, and he knows he's going to be going soon, and he knows his family has no idea of what the equipment is, and he's just been selling pieces here and there. And I'm actually a little bit I wouldn't say fearful, but I'm hesitant. I mean, I warmed it up and everything, but I haven't put it on the air yet because I just really don't understand how to tune an amplifier exactly like that, and I certainly don't want to damage it. So it's just like a slowly building the station. I've got an ALS 600 here, which is quick and easy. Turn it on and go. And but this is a whole nother aspect of the hobby. Yeah, I grew up I too worked as an electrician for about 10 years at the research center, and I actually talked to a few of the people that were that are amateur radio operators there, and I thought, wow, what a great place to have a club. And you guys that work there or have worked there, I got replied to, after 8-10 hours here, the last place I want to be after work is here. So that kind of fell by the wayside. But yeah, there's a lot of phenomenal knowledge that has come out of this area and other areas. And I personally want to thank you. It's just been an absolutely beautiful, knowledgeable wealth of information. And I hope that, for you, that we can reciprocate some of the information that's come back your way that you've been inquiring about. I mean, I never knew what the call sign was there out on Route 7. I mean, I always knew it was just a massive ham radio station, and always went by it and like, wow, that's cool. So, that's where I don't know my, even though I've lived here all these years, as long as I've lived here, I don't know a lot of the inside stories. So I don't want to belabor the point. I want to thank you very much for what you've done for us tonight.
Thank you, Larry.
The fun meter never gets off at 0, I don't think, during the contest.
How long does an operator usually operate?
So when the operators come here, they are assigned to a specific band. And what has happened over the years is that they keep coming back to the same band, and they get to know how the hardware works, how the propagation works, how their teammate works. And so the more they operate together, the better it gets. And so if you're the 10-meter operators, you have to be in the chair before sunrise, and you're going to get to go to bed probably around 8:30 or 9 o'clock at night. And so, and the two of them are there. So there's always, they might switch. So there is slight breaks, but on 20 meters, we have 3 operators, just because that band goes 24 hours a day. If you're the 40-meter operators, you don't get much sleep because the band doesn't close till about 9:30 in the morning. And then you got to be back on the air at about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So those guys don't get much rest. But we've added another separate house for a sleeping facility as well as the barn. So everybody, and if you're the 40-meter operator, that's the only band you see. If you're the 160 guy, that's the only band you see. So that's how it works here, JR.
Yeah, I like it. I worked the New York QSO party by myself, and just doing what I could for it. And I think it was like 12 hours, and I spent most of the 12 hours on the band, but I ended up with 322 Qs, 320.
Great job.
Yeah, I enjoyed it because, I was using a nice amplifier. I forgot what George's got, but I was doing it remote. And the only thing that was bugging me is because the remote wasn't kicking out quick enough. But to be honest with you, I'm 100% totally blind too. So I'm typing, listening, and doing everything as quick as I can.
It's a great job.
Yeah.
I hope all you guys are going to be on sweepstakes this weekend.
Yeah,
I'll bet, Joe.
we used to use.
I can count on you, Bob.
We
That's
used to use
CW though, right?
sweepstakes here, but
weekend?
no longer.
What's that?
CW this weekend, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Nope, not gonna happen for me.
I can't use it.
So here's the question that nobody's asked you yet, Tim, and It's what I've been thinking about is how much is your insurance premium for the year?
You don't want to know. You don't want to pay it either.
How do you manage the cost for the power?
You know, I look at power this way. When we do a full-blown 48-hour DX contest, it costs about $200 extra that month. I don't know where you can have this much fun with 12 of your friends for 200 bucks.
Right. That's cheaper than a night out with the group that size. So,
Right,
you know,
right.
that's money well spent.
It is. And I mean, and you know, I've had people say, Terry, well, how come you don't remote it so that you can, you know, during the virus, you guys can be multi-multi? And the answer is, well, I mean, certainly I've got enough technology here, we could do that. But that's just not fun. I grew up having all the guys here so that we could be pals, we could be friends, we could talk to each other. We're gabbing on the screens, and having a distributed multi-multi, you know, all over the world, and just so that the meters here are moving, it's not the same.
You know, that was field day for me. And this year missed it because of COVID, and last year because of another commitment. And, you know, field day is as close to a multi-multi as I'll ever see. And it's just not the same. You know, I worked from home and did okay, but it's just not the same.
Got to be around people, John.
Yep.
Yeah, I got another question. So when you said a drunk driver hit one of your power cables or one of your guy cables, when his insurance adjuster came out to see what the damage was, what did he say?
Well, the drunk driver was a 23-year-old kid. There was a graduation party at my neighbor's house. And as it turns out, the insurance company that his parents had is the same insurance company I have. So that was actually good. So it didn't touch my insurance. His insurance paid for, or their insurance paid for the whole thing. But it was one of those, oh my God.
Was that during were you in a contest at that point, or?
We were operating field day, and it was a relaxed field day, but, and we didn't stop, you know, there wasn't anything I was going to do on that Sunday. You know, when, after he got done with the guy anchor, he hit our club's communication trailer and threw that into my garage, on the way to breaking the front axle on that pickup truck. So, you know, we, once the police and fire departments were here, you know, for donuts on Sunday morning, we sent them home and we got back on the air.
It reminds me of that Farmers Insurance commercial that we see on television. I can't remember the whole thing, but, you know, seen a thing or two. So we've done a thing or two. I'll bet you they didn't see that.
No,
Yeah, that's like, Dad, I hit the space shuttle on the way home from school today. You know, it's like,
yeah, you're absolutely right, Bob. It was a very unique thing for the insurance company.
So the greatest tribute to how you worked this out is, did you recruit this young man or young woman to become an amateur radio operator?
No, you know, I've never met them to this day. When the accident happened, it was 1:30 in the morning. I was asleep, and there's been absolutely no contact.
Did he survive?
Yeah, he did.
Wow.
I have a question that I hope is not considered awkward, and please no details if you're uncomfortable. Is all of the infrastructure that you've described to us, is this yours, or is it owned by your company, or some combination thereof? Again, it may not be appropriate, so please just ignore it or skip it. but it's a curiosity with something of this magnitude to consider how one would, try to achieve or approach that kind of thing.
Well, no, I try to be as open as possible, and so I own everything here. A lot of people think it's a club. My neighbors think I'm with the CIA, but no, Bob, I don't have a boat. I don't have a home in Florida. I don't have all the other trappings that others do. I spent 25 years in the cellular telephone business, and that worked out very well for me. So I was able to focus in and do this.
Tim, I've got another question, and you don't have to answer it now if Bob has another follow-up question, but at some point I'd like you to describe that DX engineering noise canceling control that you mentioned, just in terms of, is that one that you need an actual noise antenna for to do some reception and then canceling, or how does that noise cancellation system work?
So it works on the same premise as like the Bose headphones work. And so what it does is there are two ways primarily to use the NCC. And one is just as you described, Jim. You have a noise antenna that is an antenna that tries to hear that offending noise. So, and you feed that into, let's say, channel B, and you feed the antenna that you want to listen on into channel A, and then you use the two controls, the amplitude and phase, to actually null the noise. And there's a very, very powerful video on the DX Engineering website where the noise canceling controller is that shows the power of nulling that noise on FT8 on 160 meters. The way I use the noise canceling controller is to actually take two different antenna systems and combine them together to get a highly directed pattern. And what I do is, for instance, I'll point these two receive antennas on Europe, and then I go find a very loud European, and then I'll take a nulling all the way down into the noise, and then I flip the phase switch 180 degrees, and he's right on the peak. And so that is a tremendous way of, that takes out the noise, but what it does is it focuses on receiving stations, in, for instance, in Europe.
But I guess no matter what approach you use, you do need two antennas, it sounds like.
Yes, you do need two antennas.
Yep, okay. That sounds like something that's a good proving ground, for kind of trial and error and experimentation, maybe a little modeling here and there, but sounds very interesting.
Yeah, Jim, the manual is quite exhaustive for the NCC, and it is up on the website as well. So you can take a look at the manual, and like I said, there is a video there that is quite good.
Sure, I may have seen the video. Whatever it was very convincing. I'm not sure if that's the video I saw, but I saw one video, and I was impressed with the results. So that sounds great.
Anything else?
Are you using voice keys or?
Yes. Yeah, the great thing about these 7851s is they have sound cards right in them. And so we have one USB connection between the Nook computer and the radio, and the voice keying is really, really high quality. And so, yes, we do use the voice keys.
Now, is that being controlled right from the computer, the voice keyer?
Yes. It is controlling the sound card inside the radio.
Nice.
Yeah, the 7300, the 7610, 705, and the 7851, all four of those radios have sound cards inside them. It's just great.
What logging software?
We use WinTest. It's very, very popular in Europe. It is nowhere near as popular as N1MM because a lifetime license for unlimited computers and unlimited time is still about 45 euros. I paid that in 2006, but N1MM is free.
Yeah. How would you say it's comparable to the N3FJP software?
WinTest is light years ahead of N3FJP. And it's not complicated, but it's N3FJP has a whole different methodology of logging software. This stuff is really, really good, and the package is very easy to use, and it networks very well. I mean, you know, we have a full-blown Cat6 gigabit Ethernet network here, and it's yeah, I've used N3FJP, but WinTest is light years ahead of it.
And have you worked with them to make it, you know, more suitable for what you do? I mean, have you helped them develop it, or is it just something that you tried one day and said, this works great?
No, we actually have given feedback to them, John, as has others, and they do come out with enhancements. And, you know, I mean, they revise it frequently. And the great thing is they have a super way of testing it. And so when we take a new download, it's bug free. It's really good.
I wonder how accessible the software would be.
What do you mean accessible?
Well, I'm 100% totally blind, so I'm using I'm using a screen reader that reads what's coming up on the screen. So, you know, I need to know what I'm typing into, or what, you know, am I able to set the modes and that kind of thing?
Yeah, you know, it's not a DX log package, general purpose deal. It's definitely contest only, or DXpedition. JR, I would think that there might be a blind ham out there using it, but I don't know. So, you know, you can get on the WinTest website and ask the authors what they know, and they're very responsive.
No, it's cool. You know, I like the idea because it's, you know, if it's something that works, it's, you know, hey, why not try it? I'm always willing to try something new.
Anything else, Jim? You're muted, Jim.
Yeah, thanks. I think that's it from my end. You know, as you can hear from the responses in the group, we're very appreciative of your story. It's a remarkable story, and much more than I bargained for, frankly, especially those photographs. You know, just we get nervous putting up 30-foot towers. At least I do. Watching the guys put up 30-foot towers on field day. Anyway, but honestly, we sure appreciate your you know, story and your commitment to furthering the hobby, and we'll definitely be in touch. It's really nice to have a face connected with the business, and I think it puts us all, you know, a couple notches closer to you and the company and the hobby, frankly. So I'd say we're done for tonight. Again, thank you so much. You may get a raft of emails just with questions and so forth, but I'd say keep up the great work, and I'm looking forward to the next time I'm on I-80, taking a little side trip down to the station.
Well, let me know when you're coming through, Jim. You're always welcome,
Okay.
as is all of the members here at the club. And it was a great honor to present to this club. And thank you for talking about Jim Lawson, who had a huge influence on my life and my course of study in college, and also my career choice. So, like I said, I look forward to this meeting greatly this evening, and I appreciate all of your support, all of the members that do business with DX Engineering, and we just want to help you have fun with the greatest hobby in the world. So thank you again, Jim.
Okay, well, thank you.
When's the next
Thanks. Thanks, Tim.
When's the next KDKA event
very
coming
much.
up?
The KDKA special events, W8XK and K3A, K3D, they're all on the air for the entire month of November.
Yeah, I've been looking for them, and I don't know. I haven't found them yet. So, but
You got time.
yeah, yeah.
All right. Good luck to everybody, and 73, and I
That's
hope to
good.
hear you on the air.
Thank you,
Thank you
Tim.
very much.
Thank you
All
so
right,
much.
Thanks. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Good
73,
night.
thank you.
73, thank you.
73.
It's very, very enjoyable.
Hey,
JR,
Jim
this is
Stewart,
Mark. I did find them in my
Kevin.
log twice,
Did you?
a couple of
Well,
years
let's-
ago.
Yeah.
Well, let's go watch the Giants lose.
Wow.
Who they playing?
Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I'd rather see the Giants win. Not a Brady fan.
Jim Stewart, before this is Bob. Before you go on the QSL cards, just be aware that the original files, to have them reprinted, are designed to have 4 cards on cardstock. So if you're going to work it out with George, he has to be aware that it's a very precise arrangement of cardstock in the printer. A laser printer would probably be better than a link in inkjet, but if Tim can help us, he's already done it. But I looked at the originals of the data, and it's four cards on a page. So it probably is using the, what's the name of the company? Emory? I can't remember who makes all the.
Avery.
Avery, thanks, Jim. So just, Jim, if you're going to go, Jim Stewart, if you're going to go ahead and arrange it, just make sure we've got some compatibility.
Okay, so it's a 8.5 by 11 cardstock cut in 4. Is that what it is?
Yeah, let me, Jim Silva, I assume the meeting is over. Can I just have?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so let me just show,
the channel's open.
let me just show Jim Stewart the
All right,
QSL
let me
card.
stop the recording too on that.
Yeah, stop the recording. That would be a good idea.